Today, we'll be solving LeetCode 200, number of islands. In this problem, we are given a two-dimensional grid made up of ones and zeros. A 1 represents land, and a 0 represents water. Our task is to count how many separate islands there are in this grid. An island is formed when land cells are connected horizontally or vertically, but not diagonally. You can also assume that the edges of the map are all surrounded by water. So, how do we approach this? Let's think about it. We can scan through each cell in the grid, and whenever we find land that we haven't visited yet, we can treat that as the start of a new island. Then, we need to explore all the connected land cells from that point so we don't count them again later. This exploration can be done using depth-first search, also called DFS, or breadth-first search, also called BFS. Both work, but for this explanation, we'll use DFS because it is simpler to implement recursively. Here's the step-by-step idea. First, we'll keep a counter to track the number of islands. Then, we will loop over every row and every column of the grid. If we find a 1, that means we found unvisited land, so we'll increase the island counter by 1. Then, we'll run a DFS starting from that cell to mark every connected land cell as visited by turning it into a 0. This way, when we continue scanning the grid, we won't count that island again. The DFS will check all 4 directions, up, down, left, and right, and keep marking land until the entire island is visited. Now, let's go through the code line by line. We start by defining a function called numberIslands that takes in the grid. Inside, we first check if the grid is empty by saying if not grid, then return 0. This is just a quick check to handle an edge case. Next, we get the number of rows and columns by saying rows equals length of grid and cols equals length of grid at 0. These will help us navigate the grid. We then define a helper function called DFS that takes 2 arguments, R and C, representing the current row and column. Inside DFS, the first thing we do is check if R is less than 0 or C is less than 0 or R is greater than or equal to rows or C is greater than or equal to cols or if grid at R and C is equal to the string 0. If any of these are true, we return immediately because it means we are either outside the grid or we hit water or already visited land. If we pass those checks, we mark the current land as visited by setting grid at R and C equal to the string 0. Then, we call DFS on R -1, C to go up, DFS on R +1, C to go down, DFS on R, C -1 to go left, and DFS on R, C +1 to go right. This explores the entire island connected to our starting point. Back in the main function, we create a variable called number_islands and set it to 0. Then, we loop through every row using for R in range of rows, and inside that, we loop through every column using for C in range of cols. If grid at R and C is equal to the string 1, we know we found a new island, so we increase number_islands by 1 and then call DFS with R and C to mark the whole island as visited. Finally, after scanning the entire grid, we return number_islands, which now holds the total number of islands. In terms of time complexity, this algorithm runs in O of m times n, where m is the number of rows and n is the number of columns, because in the worst case we visit each cell exactly once. The space complexity is O of m times n in the worst case due to the recursion stack if the entire grid is land. And that's how you solve LeetCode 200, number of islands. Thank you for watching and let's keep learning.